Assalamu alaikum friends, welcome to lecture 34 of SBL. Here we are going to talk about many things, in fact 2 to 3 important things, starting with strategic change. Why we need to change, what are the resistance we have to face when we want to change, overcoming those resistance, then the Balogun and the Hope Hailey's model, and the business process improvement. This is a little bit of technical area. You need to know this technical areas. Okay, in order to know it, that means you have to know the models. There will be 2 3 models that will be going through in this lecture, which you need to apply in your exam if the question is regarding strategy change and all. Okay, so starting with strategic change, there are types of strategic change. Okay, this is the table that you need to know. It is in 2 axes. Okay, on the one axis it is the speed of change. On the other axis, horizontal axis, you can see it is the extent of change. How fast are you changing and the extent that you are changing. And based on that, you will be having these 4 things: evaluation, adaptation, evaluation, reconstruction. Okay, so the speed of change, one is incremental, the other one is known as big bang. It's like a very rapid change, radical change. Incremental means little by little you are improving. Coming to the extent of change, one is transformation, one is realignment. Okay, again, transformation is the extent is huge, realignment is the extent is small extent. Okay, so now let's explain what each of this means. First, we are going to go to the explanation of the axis before we go to the boxes. Okay, transformation. What is the meaning of transformation? This is one of the extent of change, transformation. This means there is a change in the organization culture. The change is so huge that even your organization culture needs to be changed for it. You're totally transforming into something else. You understanding? So this means change in organizational culture. And it's a fundamental change, not a small change. Okay, the change is so fundamental that with your existing organization structure, with your culture, with your management, you cannot handle it, so you need to change. The next extent of change is realignment. This is not a fundamental change. Okay, still your central assumptions and your belief stays the same, your culture stays the same. Culture does not change here. Next, the speed of change. One is incremental, as I told you. Okay, remember, incremental change, when you're changing by a small amount, it can take a long period of time. That means fundamentally you're not changing anything at once. This change takes a long period of time. Coming to the next, big bang. This is like a change that is forced. You are forcing this change. Okay, and it happens in a very short span of time. Okay, that means you're doing simultaneous initiatives at the same time to change. Understanding? Now, knowing the meaning will explain the boxes. Adaptation. What is the meaning of adaptation? Adaptation means you are slowly and you are gradually changing, but your culture remains the same with your existing culture. So tell me, in the box, out of that 4 box, which one adaptation will fit in? You earlier went through the box, okay, but without looking the box again, going back and looking that matrix again, tell me. Through the explanation, tell me which box it will fit. Where? Just tell me. Speed of change should be incremental or big bang? Incremental, correct. And what about the extent of change? Realignment or transformation? Realignment. So it's a realignment and incremental. Coming to the next, reconstruction. This is a much quicker change compared to adaptation. Okay, mostly because your external environment, because of external pressure and all, maybe new competitor has innovated something due to which you have to reconstruct, or regulatory environment has changed. Okay, because of this, it is bringing a downturn in your financial performance, right? So what happens? You have to change now. So you just cannot take a gradual approach like adaptation. You have been launching many initiatives at the same time. It's like you are keeping your hands everywhere. You're trying to do simultaneous thing at the same time so that you can turn around the company into a better performing company, or to react to your your competitor innovation and all. It could be anything. So here, reconstruction. The speed of the change is what? It will be incremental or big bang. And what about the extent of the change? Whether it is realignment or transformation. It's transformation. It's transformation. But it's incremental, not a big bang. Coming to the other two types, evaluation. Here what happens? Tell me. What happens in the evaluation? It anticipation of the need for future change. An organization will aim to change its culture over time. Evaluation means your culture is changed. So tell me, if your culture is changed, based on the extent, will it be a realignment or transformation? Transformation. And the speed of change, whether it is incremental or big bang. Think. I'm not going to answer this for you. You have to answer this for yourself. Okay. But remember, this is the most challenging type of change. Okay, as there is no immediate need for it, but it will be vital for the long-term success. Last is revaluation. This is a rapid and fundamental change. That means it's a big bang and it is transformation, right? This is one of the most dangerous, I would say, riskiest change, because speed is very rapid and change is also very fundamental. If things go wrong, it goes wrong. But if things goes well, the return is also higher compared to the other three types of changes. Usually this happens when your organization is facing some extreme external pressure. That means you have to change. There is no other way out. Do or die situation. Even your culture needs to be adapted significantly to the new process, to the new product, to the new objective. Because if you do not change, your organization will fail. Okay. So in your exam, in the case study, if they give you a type of change, you have to see two things, whether your culture is changing or not. Why? Because if your culture is changing, it will tell you whether the extent of the change is realignment or transformation. Number one. Number two, look at the speed of change. Is it very rapid or slow? If it's rapid, it's big bang. If it's slow, it's incremental. So based on that, you will be able to tell whether it's evaluation, revaluation, adjustment, or what is it? Reconstruction. Out of this four. Okay. Then we are moving on to selecting an approach to strategic change. Okay. Remember, the window of opportunity for achieving a revolutionary strategic change is very small. Okay, it's not that every time you can change in a revaluation way, but if you have that opportunity, the window is very small. Okay, why? There are some most common triggers for it. Number one, competitive pressure. Competitive pressure is one reason why you have to revolutionary change yourself. Second, regulatory pressure. Third, first mover advantage. Remember, what is first mover advantage? If you are the first one in the market to come up with the new innovation, new product which no one else offers, you will be having the most number of customer, the link to the distribution networks, everything will be yours. Compared to the one who are moving second and third and fourth, because they will be just, it's like a Me Too product. They'll be imitating you. Okay. And even customers also, they will not likely to react very positively when you are in the second or the third. That's why always try to come the first. If you have an idea, you should be the first one to come up with that an idea before your competitors come up. Otherwise, you're losing with your competitor, right? Then, now you know the type of change, right? The 4 types of change. Now, whatever the type of change is, we all know that no one likes change, right? People will resist. Okay, your stakeholders will resist to the change. But what are the reasons for this resistance? Because if you don't know the reasons, you cannot overcome this. There are 3 reasons. Number 1, job factor. Your employees might be having a fear that due to technological change, they will become unemployed, or there will be changes in the working condition, or they might have a reduced pay, or they will be even thrown out of the company, laid off, right? Because of reconstruction and all those things. That could be one fear. Second, from the point of personal, okay, they will feel less valued, work becomes more monotonous, okay, and implied criticism of the current working method, okay. They have been criticized that the current working method is not right, so you have to improve. But they feel it's, I mean, once you become very comfortable with one style, you don't want to change, right? Because changing requires you to learn new things. It takes time. You have to learn new skills. And no one wants to move into that uncomfortable stage. Remember, whenever a change happens, whether big or small, initial days it's a tough phase. You have to go on because you don't know what's happening, what is expected of you. You know, you always want to move back to where you were. So things like that. Then social factor. No one wants to break up their current social environment. No one likes it. Second, personal dislike of people implementing change. And third, lack of consultation leading to rejection of change. Remember, if you are not consulted before the change taking place and suddenly the owner and the manager comes and tells the employee that we are going to change this, no one will like it. Rather, involve them, consult with them before the change takes place. Okay. So in your exam, you have to look for which reason they are resisting for change. They will give you in the case study, don't worry. Now, how do you overcome that resistance? There's a model that is known as Levin's 3-stage model. In this model, it is said that there are 3 stages. First is known as unfreezing. What is the meaning of unfreezing? You create a motivation or you try to convince your staff at this phase why change is important, why the present situation is not desirable. Okay, that is known as unfreeze. Second is the change process itself. This is the time is changing, actually changing. You are identifying what new behavior norm should be. Okay, new informations are being communicated, new attitudes, cultures are being adopted at this stage. And the last is refreeze. Once all this taking learning new things and it's like a moving phase, everything settles down, then it's rephrasing. Now you are ready to implement the new process, the system. This now becomes a natural part of your organization, your culture. Remember, this takes time. From each stage to each stage, it takes time, okay? It's not that in one day you unfreeze, then change, and then rephrase. It does not work like that. It will take quite few days or months for unfreezing stage. After that settle, then the change. After the change takes place, then rephrase. Then you come up with, forget about old ways. Now you are learning the new ways. You understanding? New pattern of work, new behavior, even the reward system is changed. So you are learning something you have learned, you unlearn it. You forget what you have done, you were doing previously. That is called unphrase. Then you change. That is your learning phase. After that, you relearn new things. Understanding rephrase. Now, we are moving on to another model known as Balogun and Hailey. You might get this model. Okay. This is some contextual feature. Okay. This is regarding again change. Okay. You have to, when you are talking in terms of change, you have to take this also into account. This 8 contextual figures. With this, you have to see how much you have to change, whether change is required, right? Number 1 is time. When you have to change, you have to ask this question: what is the time? Is there time for the longer term strategic development? Or does the firm have to react quickly to a crisis? Are you changing because you want to change it for a longer term strategic development, or just because you have to react to a current situation now? which needs a quick reaction. So this will tell you what type of change is required at the moment. Time. Second question is scope. If you change, okay, you made the decision you want to change, but how much the organization will be affected? Is the change best described as realignment or transformation? Third, preservation. Remember, change will affect your working, your culture, your competences, and the people. Do they need to be retrained? Do you have to work on culture? Diversity. The need to recognize that different departments may have different subcultures. Even in the same organization, each department might have different subcultures, okay? Or you can say subcultures. So you have to fight with this when you want to change. For example, marketing department will have a different culture, R&D department will have a different culture. Then capability. Whether abilities exist to cope with change. Okay, you decided you want to change, but do the organization have those capabilities to cope up with that change? Do you have resources? Do you have the staff who are trained? Capacity. Regarding resources, do you have the resources to invest in this change process? See, when you want to change, you still should have the capacity, you should have money, you should have the time to give it to in the change process, because change is a long time investment. It's not that today you want to change and tomorrow you are, you know, already changed. No. Readiness. You have to see whether your staff is willing to change or not. Are they committed to change or not, or are they resisting? If they are resisting, you have to overcome that resistance. I told you how. Through 11 three-stage model. Unfreeze, change, refreeze. Power. How much authority and autonomy do change agents have to make proceed changes? What is your power in the change? Do employees have a say when they want to change? Give them the power. Give them the authority. Involve them in the decision making so that they do not resist to the change. Okay, so these are some features that you have to look into before actually making a decision to change. How much your resources will be consumed, how ready are your staff, do you have the enough capability, do you have the time, right? Then each of these factors can be assessed as positive, negative, or neutral. Remember, in an exam, if you have to use this model, Bagley and Hope-Haley's model, the 8 contextual features, you have to name, you have to tell whether this is a positive or negative. For example, your staff are not willing to change. You can say readiness is negative, or you might have capacity. You can say it's positive. So overall, you have to decide based on the positive, negative, and neutral that you are getting. If you are getting many positive, it shows you can go ahead with the change. But if you're having negative, you have to do your homework again. Okay, because if you are having more positive features, it will help you to change. If you're having negative features, it will restrict you from changing. That is the whole idea of this model. Sometimes you have to use this model in the exam, we never know, depending on the case information given to you. Do they give information about capacity? Do they give information about the staff? Do they give information about the capability? If they give, you can use this model. Or sometimes the examiner will say, okay, use this model. Using this model, tell whether change is required or not. Questions like that. But you definitely need to pick a question from revision kit or past paper on this model and see. Okay. Now, design choices. Design choices represent the key features of a change management. So these are some key features. That means all change management will have these features. What are they? Change path. Where you're changing, you'll be having a change path. What is it? You are clarifying the type of changes in terms of time scale. What is the extent of the change? What is the desired outcome from this change? Because now you're designing the change. Remember, you have to design. It's not that verbally you're doing or thinking in your head you want to change and you change. No, you have to communicate this change to your staff. You have to have a proper design plan how you're going to change. What is your time period that you're going to change? After what, when you want the desired outcome to be. Second, change start point. That means where the change is initiated. Is it top down or bottom up? Third, change style. Which management style should be adopted? Should your manager be more collaborative now, or participative, or directive, or creative? What does mean of concave? That means they're not listening to anyone. They are giving their instructions and it needs to be followed. Directive means they're giving you a direction. Okay. Participative means everyone is participating together, and collaborative means you are involving all your staff, no matter at whatever level, to collaborate in the change style management. Change interventions. Which mechanism should be deployed? For example, should you give them more education so that they overcome resistance to the should you communicate with them more, or should you do cultural intervention, or should the culture be changed? Change role. You have to assign role and responsibilities to someone for this change. Okay, maybe you can use the leaders, maybe you can use the consultants, outside consultants, or you can have some team whose role is to change only. Okay, now we are moving on to business process improvement. This is very important. Okay, I can say at least 70 to 80% there is a chance of you getting this questions on business process improvement. Okay, so a change to an individual business process. Why do you change? Because it can lead to competitive advantage or remove existing competitive disadvantages. How? By either reducing cost or differentiating business. You can improve your business process. Either you are reducing cost in that process, or you are differentiating your business. You understanding? Let's take this for an example to understand this better. See, business process means process is not just one single thing that you are changing. Process involves a lot of steps, stages, and they are linked to each other. Okay? One after the other events are happening and they are linked. Okay? For example, bank. Bank can reduce its mortgage approval period from 10 days to 1 day. Okay? If they do this, what is the impact? It will help them to stand out against their rivals. Right? But in order to achieve this change from 10 days to 1 day, what should they do? Bank should go and redesign their approval process, how they are approving that. Remember, they are taking time in the approval process. It is taking 10 days. They want to reduce it to 1 day. So they have to go and redesign their approval process. How? By changing job roles, by using more efficient IT system, right? Now, these improvements can come in many ways. Remember, one could be either you are outsourcing some of the process to outsider who are more expert in this, or you are redesigning it yourself from scratch. Understanding the importance of business process. Why business process is very important? See, it is your process that gives an overall success to your organization. If your process is very well maintained, efficient, okay, then only you can supply the goods and services to your customers on a timely basis. Then only you can give them a good quality service. Then only you can differentiate yourself against a rival. Everything lies in the process. You understanding? But remember, the process goal should align with your strategic goal. For example, let's say your overall goal is to become the quality leader. Okay, in terms of quality, you want to be a leader. So in terms of your process, what should be your goal? Can you tell that you want to produce something at the shortest possible time? That should be your process goal? No. No. That should not be your goal. Why? Because if you want to produce anything at the shortest possible time, your quality will suffer. Quality will suffer. So that is not aligning with your strategic goal. Your strategic goal is to be a quality leader. But your process goal says you want to finish something at the shortest possible time. It's not possible. It is counterproductive, in fact. So your process objective should be, or goal should be what? Even if it takes the longest possible time, you have to be efficient. Efficiency. You do everything right in the first time so that you are saving on the rework time. You don't have to rework. You don't have to waste resources. This will improve your quality ultimately. You understanding? Now, this is the model that is very important in process improvement. This is the model that you have to know. That is known as Harmon's process strategy matrix. This is the matrix. This matrix is divided into two axes. One based on strategic importance, one how complex the process is. Okay, let's start with the high, high, low, low first because it's easier that way. If a process is in an organization, okay, it's less complex, okay, complexity is low, strategic importance is also low, then you don't have to give so much of effort to it. Minimum effort. With minimum effort also it will work. Okay. Because it's not very complex, it's very easily you can do it. And strategic importance is also not so much. So do not put so much of effort and time in those process. Minimum effort is enough. Whereas if both are high, okay, both are high, you have to undertake process improvement in that area only, remember. Because it's very complex, process itself is very complex and strategic importance is also very high. That is the area where you have to undertake process improvement. Where complex is low but strategic importance is high, you can automate. I'm repeating again. In terms of complexity, it's low. That means anyone can do it easily, right? If it's something which is less complex, anyone can do it, right? You can give it to someone else also. Why you have to give it to someone else? Because strategic importance is high. So automate it rather than doing it, because it is something which can easily be done. Complexity is low, but you can automate because strategic importance is high. That means it will bring more efficiency if you automate it rather than doing it manually. But if it's the other way around, complexity is high but strategic importance is low. Strategic importance is low means you can outsource it. Even though it's complex, give it to someone who is more expert in doing it because strategic importance is low. So outsource it. But you have to memorize this table, okay? You have to know these four things. Four quadrant, very important that you have to know. When it is low, low, what is the thing? When it is high, high, this thing. Now, before we move on further, we'll be doing a question using this matrix. So let's do a question. So in this question, we are going to apply the Harmon's process strategic matrix for a children's bicycle manufacturer. Okay, here you have been given all the process. You need to fit them in the box. New product design, negotiating partnership deals, online purchasing, stock control, credit card approval, bicycle assembly, delivery international, funds investment. Okay, so let us start with new product design. Where do you think it will fit new product design? Think in terms of complex and strategic importance. New product design. Okay, according to me, this should fit in where both are high. That means this is the process which needs to be improved. According to me, let's see the answer. You see here, new product design. Because you are in a bicycle manufacturer, so you obviously want to come with new innovation, new product design. Obviously, strategically, it's very important and it's very complex also to come up with new product design. It is not something you can outsource or automate or do nothing about. Coming to the second, negotiating partnership deals with other organization. What do you think? This is strategically high, but complex is low. So you can automate. Let's see. Okay, it is both high. Sorry, you cannot automate it because this has to be done manually when you're dealing, because every organization is different, right? So this is also in the same category. This is done, this is done. Online purchasing. Tell me. Strategically, it is important, yes, but complex is low because it's online purchasing. So automate. You see here, online purchasing. I will write process improvement, automate, Stock control. Tell me. Stock control. I'm sure that you are confused between two things, whether you have to automate or outsource. Stock control, you can give it for, it's low. So it's neither minimal effort. See, not every company will have stock control as minimal effort. It depends on the industry you are at. This is a bicycle manufacturer. If it is some other industry, okay, remember, things might change. If it is in a supermarket, stock control is very important there. Because this is a bicycle manufacturer, stock control is not so important for this industry. So minimal effort. Credit card approval. Tell me. We'll see what is credit card approval. That is also minimal effort. Because no one usually uses credit card for bicycle stuff. Bicycle assembly. This you can outsource. Because it's less complex, but strategically is very important. Okay. You see here. Sorry, this is not outsource. This is automate. And the remaining two you can see, it is outsource. Fund investment and deliver international. Because complex is high, but strategic importance is low here. Now, explanation is also given here. If you want, you can go through the explanation. Okay, maybe quickly I can go through. Basically, what they have put in the box, only they're explaining that new product designed and negotiating partnerships are important and complex. That's why these are likely candidates for analyzing and redesigning. That means process improvement. Here, so basically this explanation and all you can do. Okay. Once you understood that box, explanation you can explain. But remember, after having this in the boxes like this, you have to explain also in the exam. Okay. So now, let's go ahead. So now, we are in the key stages in a process design. What is the key stage? Key stage is to first identify problems in the current process before you even come up with solutions. Okay. So, what could be the problems in the current process? Like this. Maybe activities are unnecessary, which you have to delete. Maybe activities are in the wrong order. Maybe they are missing. The activities take too long. So in your exam, you have to see out of this which problem. Maybe sometimes more than one problem could occur at the same time. Right? What are the solutions for this? Number one, if it's unnecessary activities, remove it. Combine the job roles rather than having two separate people doing the similar job. Combine activity where you think that activities require similar process, combine them. Reduce handovers between swim lanes. What is the swim lane? We'll see this. We'll do a question on this and I will explain you what is a swim lane. Reduce handover. Rather than going from one swim lane to another, keep them in the same swim lane. Change the order of the activity if they're in the wrong order. So these are some solutions. Outsource activity. You can outsource. Now, in an exam, you may be asked to do this if it's a process. Remember, first, in a question, they might ask you evaluate the existing process of the company. So you have to evaluate. That means you have to find out what are the faults in that company, the process. Second, offer a suggestion for redesign. Third, you actually come up with a new process, right? So how do you evaluate the effectiveness of existing process? By answering these questions. Are there any gaps or steps missing? Is there any duplication? Are there any overlaps? That means several people are performing the same task. Are there activities that adds no value? So if the question is no, yes for all this, it is not effective. Existing process needs to be changed. But if you see there is no duplication, there are no steps missing, there are no activities that add no value, then there are no overlaps, everyone is doing different job, then no need to change the process. Existing process is perfectly working well. But let me tell you from experience that in the exam, most of the time they will give you active process that needs to be changed. That means there will be some fault you will find in the existing process. Okay, but that does not mean that all the time you will get the faults only. Sometimes you might get a perfectly excellent process that does not require redesign. It can happen, right? Now, process redesign solution. When you are doing this, how you used to do strategy evaluation, like to check whether the strategy is correct or not, the pros and the cons, right? Here also three questions you need to ask: whether the process redesign is suitable, whether it is feasible, whether it will be acceptable by all the stakeholders. Same for the process. So suitability, feasibility, acceptability model applies for process redesign as well, not just for strategy. That means whatever redesign options you are taking, ask this question: is that option suitable for your company based on your strategy? Is it feasible? Do you have the resources? Do you have the capacity? Is this acceptable to the other stakeholders? If answer to all these three is yes, 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 go ahead. Go ahead with the redesign options. Otherwise, you need to change that. So before we go on to the summary, okay, we are over with this lecture. We have to do a question on process improvement. So let's go and do that first before we summarize everything. Test your understanding 5. So whenever a process improvement question is given in the exam, it would be given like this, right? In a diagram form. Now, as I was saying, what is a swim lane, right? I told you, right? This is the swim lane. These are different types of lanes. You could be here, you could be here, you could be here, you could be here. So this is the meaning of swim lane that I was talking about. Now, in this question, you have to first let us read the requirement. Explain the problems in this process and how this might be resolved. Problem and solution. Okay. So here let us read this. Going back to a bicycle manufacturer, performing step 2 of the redesign process on one of the manufacturing process. So this is what you can see. We have a receiver who receives raw materials and then he gives it 2/3 to welder and 1/3 to joiner. Okay, then you can see it goes down to the welder. He receives raw materials, inspect, weld two together, send to the joiner. Then what the joiner does, okay, obviously from here he'll be receiving the raw material and inspect. He also does the receiving raw material and inspect, and then receive the welded item, join with the third piece, 90% to assembly, 10% to quality, and then it goes here for inspection to the quality inspector. Each area of responsibility is given to its own swim lane. A swim lane visually distinguishes job sharing and responsibilities for sub-process of a business process. This particular process starts with 3 pieces of metal, 2 of which are welded together and then joined with the third. You should be able to see from the diagram how the metal moves across swim lanes towards the final output. Now tell me. I will give you some time, visualize this and tell me what is the problem. How many problems are there? First tell me that. And what are they? Whatever the problems you are giving, based on that will be a solution also. So tell me. think. This is what is the hardest part. You know everything about process improvement. You know you have to give problem solution, but now think. You have to think like this. So every problem solution is not on what you have learned. You will never get the answer in the textbook. You have to think that time in the exam based on the case study given to you. What could be the problem? Okay, let me reveal the answer without taking too long. Some of you might have guessed it rightly. Some of you are still struggling. Don't worry if you're still struggling. That's not an issue because this is the first question, obviously. But after this, whenever you do the next question, third question, fourth question, you should be better to identify the problem at once. Okay, there are two problems now. Okay, I will write it down. I don't want. Okay, two problems with this problem one and problem two. What is problem one? It could be in any order, one or two, but there are two problems here. And both the problem, I will tell you what is it with. It is with inspection. The problem is with the inspection. So the first problem is, if you see inspection, it is in the wrong swim lane, happening at the wrong place. It is happening at the wrong place also and at the wrong swim lane. Wrong place means the welder is doing it, joiner is doing it. Wrong swim lane means it is here and here. It should be in the quality inspector. Quality inspector should be inspecting it. Okay, so I will write the answer for you anyway because some of you might want to know the exact answer. I will write it. So the first problem is inspection is in the wrong swim lane. Happening at the wrong place. What is the second issue? Inspection is happening after you have received the materials from the welder and the joiner. Okay, you see, right after you receive raw material, they're inspecting. Right after receiving raw material, they're inspecting. So that is the second problem. Is happening after the materials received by the welder and joiner. Now, based on this, tell me the solutions. That means these two problems only you'll be giving two solutions for it. For the first problem, what is the solution? Because they told in the wrong swim lane. So in what swim lane should they be? The inspection should happen in the quality inspector swim lane. You see here, quality inspector, what is his job? To inspect only. Then why the welder and joiner are inspecting it? Let him do it. So bring inspection into this swim lane. Okay. Inspection should happen in the quality inspector swim lane. And what is the solution for the next second problem? Inspection of the material should be done before you are issuing it to the welder and the joiner. Understood? Not after they have received it. And who will be doing it? Again, the quality inspector. So the quality inspector should inspect materials. Before they are issued to welder and joiner. Got it? Again, take some time to go through this diagram and see. Because once you understood this diagram, this is how a process process redesign question will be asked. Okay, so this is one way of answering. If you are going in more advanced redesign option, there could be another way of answering this question. What is it? You might combine all the three jobs, right? Combine all the three jobs into one job role. That means one employee can perform welding, joining, and inspecting. He only can weld, he only can join, he only can inspect. Right? Or at least you can train them to do that rather than keeping three separate people for welder, joiner, and this thing. What is the impact of this? If you are keep combining all the three roles into one job role, what is the positive impact of this? I will write it here. Remember, you should have benefits, because if you're changing the process and if you're not having a benefit, then there's no use, right? We are changing to get the benefit. So what are the benefits of this? Staff cost, exactly. Rather than paying three separate people, three separate salaries or wages, you just have to give it to one people. So staff costs are reduced. Second benefit could be the process becomes very efficient now. Third could be, what is the third? There will be less handovers among the swim lanes, right? Between the swim lanes, reducing the time taken and the likelihood of errors also. Imagine if you have to give one job to three different people. You have to hand over among them, then you have to communicate. If there are miscommunication among them, error will likely to take place more and it will take more time. But now one people is doing, no need to communicate, error will reduce and also time taken will reduce. So less handovers between swim lanes, which will reduce the time taken and the likelihood of errors. Reduce the likelihood of errors also. That's it. It looks very simple, but trust me, it requires a lot of practice to identify this thing. So now let's summarize everything that we have covered in this lecture. So for managing strategic change, we've been through the types of change. that is incremental versus big bang, then transformation versus realignment, the scope of the change. So we went through the four this thing: devaluation, evaluation, adjustment, and reconstruction. You have to identify which one it is based on the types of the speed of the change and the extent of the change. Then we went through the Balogun and the Hope Haley's contextual factors: time, scope, preservation, diversity, capability, capacity, readiness, and power. In terms of change, we have to see whether the time is there, diversity is there, we have the capacity, staff are ready, all those things. Then we went through the structure and the process change, the Harmon's process strategy matrix. Here we saw whether it is complex or strategic importance, whether to outsource, redesign, or automate, or do nothing, minimal effort, right? Based on high and low of the strategic importance of and complexity. Then process redesign. From your exams point of view, okay, you have to identify 3 or 4 problems in a swim lane diagram. They will give you a swim lane diagram only, most commonly. Otherwise, it's hard. In sentences, if they tell you this is the process, this is the process, that is the process. Then suggest solutions for each one of the problem. So in the exam, that's what you're supposed to do when you're redesigning a process. That's it for this lecture, and thank you for watching, and see you in the last lecture. That will be the next lecture, upcoming lecture, lecture 35, project management. Last lecture in your SBL. So see you.